I want to just share my story today. Basically how I arrived to where I am right now. And I know I still have quite a bit to go on the journey, but I just want to give you all an idea of how I started working throughout the world with women and young people starting and growing business. So in growing up, when I was maybe in Form 4 or Form 5, I had this bright idea that I wanted to be an accountant in an international company, and I wanted to be the youngest accountant. And I had this elaborate plan for my life. And I broke it down into 10 years, and each year for 10 years. And I said to myself, nothing would come in between me and that plan. There's no plan B. So I stuck up this plan on every wall and every mirror that I could find in the house. So the first thing was to study in London to become an accountant. I don't know why I chose accounting. I thought it was sexy. I don't know how that came about. And I wanted to work for an international company in London because at the time, London was the place to go to study accounting. And then I wanted to get married to a tall, dark, handsome, bald-headed guy. And I wanted to live on the Thames River. I wanted to live there for a few years and then come back to Trinidad and live on a hill in Maraval. I'd never been to Maraval. I'm from South. But all of that sounded so glamorous and fascinating, right? You all find so? Yeah. Well, I found that it sounded what success would be like. So I started off doing this plan, and I was focused and relentless with it. So I moved to London. I became the youngest accountant in an international company, CNN. And then they moved me over to Cartoon Network, and I was the youngest black accountant in the building. So I was ticking everything on that wall, tick, 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 and feeling like, yes, this is life. Then I met the tall, dark, handsome, bald-headed guy, because that was on the list. It didn't matter about his qualities or anything. It had to fit that. So we got married because I had to seal that deal early. Ticket, moved to live on the Thames River, overlooking the Thames, like a superstar, you know. And I was just getting all these things. I went back to school and I was getting all these degrees. And everybody on the outside was saying, oh my God, you are so successful. But inside, I was feeling like crap. I was feeling like the more things that I got, that I had to work to keep it or I would lose it. And this guy, oh, I mean, he looks good, but pfft, what a loser, you know? But I had to keep up this whole facade that I was successful. And then my plan that I put up on all the walls and mirrors, I had no plan B. So I was doing that, and then I started studying again. And as part of that work, I had to volunteer for a women's organization. And that made me feel like I was contributing to something bigger than myself. But I hid that because it wasn't on the plan. And soon enough, I was running away from work, going to the building where they would help women who came to the UK either as refugees or prisoners of war, whatever, they were fleeing. We were helping them to start and run businesses. But I was doing that on the down low. Lo and behold, on the list, move back to Maraval and have 2 children. So I said to my husband at the time, we're going back to Trinidad and Tobago to live in Maraval on a hill, and I will become the youngest accountant again in a big company here. I would be the chief financial officer. So he didn't like that idea. Why are we leaving London? Why are we leaving this life? I said, it's on the wall, it's on the plan. So we have to do it. So I came back to Trinidad before he did. I found the house on the hill in Maraval, and I became the chief financial officer for this company. And things were going well, and then I was fired on national TV. The Prime Minister at the time fired me for corruption and theft. And, well, you hear my name. So when you hear Akosua Dardaine-Edwards fired on TV, I could not hide. But I thought I would hide and lie to everyone and say, no, it's not me. And then the same day, my husband said, you might as well get all the bad news right now. I'm leaving. Bye. Deuces. So I was there without a job, without a man, and I'm looking on the wall for where is that in the plan? It's not in the plan. And I think I was going a little bit crazy because I had no plan B. I had no plan B. I had all these degrees. I had just that. I didn't have any spiritual grounding to go with it. I didn't have a small ego at the time to go and ask for help. I just didn't know what to do at that time. So my first lesson that I want to leave with you all is, you define what success is for yourself. You define success, and you don't base it only on having things and qualifications. So I was hiding and lying and telling everyone that I found a new job and Jay didn't leave me. But of course you can't, you can lie to yourself, but you know what the truth is. And eventually that was catching up with me. And the house on the hill in Maraval the bank was ready to come for it. And I didn't know how to pick myself up to get another job, given the fact that I had all those qualifications. So, as fate would have it, the same organization that I was volunteering with in the UK, they wanted me, I was still communicating with them and doing stuff with them. They wanted me to go to Canada to speak at a forum because UN Women was forming. Now, remember Mr. Watkins talked about volunteering earlier? Y'all remember he mentioned that? That saved me. So I was volunteering for that organization. They asked me to go to Ottawa, Canada, to work with a group of women from Uganda and Africa, Latin America, India, and the officials of the UN to formulate some policies to start UN Women. So I said, great, it is an opportunity to leave Trinidad and leave everything behind and start again. And lay low and, you know, just regroup. So the second thing I want to tell you all, which is repeating what Mr. Watkins said, volunteer for something. It can open doors for you. Yeah, and do it, don't do it because you want a door open. Do it because it expands your possibilities, expands your reach, and you learn things. So I get to Ottawa, and we're listening to these women who were telling us their stories about post-conflict and war and natural disasters, recovering from natural disasters. And this woman from Uganda walks into the room. And She was tall and she had these high cheekbones and she was almost like a warrior. And she said, I don't want your money. I don't want your money. So we all looked at each other like, what is going on here? Nobody even spoke about money. And she started telling us that she is going to build the #1 company in East Africa post their civil war. They were in a 27-year civil war. And I sat there fascinated by this because in Uganda at the time, women couldn't even own land, far less have a business. So at lunch, I sat next to her and I said, what it is you really want to do in Uganda? And she said, I have this vision to be the #1 agricultural seed company in East Africa, not just Uganda. And I said, how far is Uganda from here? She said it took me 30 hours to fly to Canada. I said, well, that's far enough from Trinidad. I want to go to Uganda. And she said, Madam Akosua, it will be like nothing you've ever experienced. I said, well, you haven't even begun to hear what I've been through. Thinking my little problems could measure up. So that's how I got to Uganda. So I didn't ask any questions. I just said, I'm coming. That's lesson number 3, ask questions. So I landed in Uganda, and it was in the evening, and the airport is in Entebbe, and it was like 2 hours away from where I was staying. And we're driving, and in Entebbe is nice, and the roads are paved, and then all of a sudden, there's no street lights, there's no paved roads. I said, oh my God, what did I agree to? And we end up in this village. 901 women coming out of a 27-year civil war in a village called Gulu decided that they had a vision to rebuild the town by starting a company. Very clear vision. Have a very clear vision. So, Madam Akosua is supposed to assist in rebuilding this village through this company. So, in the first couple of weeks, they asked me to go to the little different villages and teach about savings. And they formed something called a VNS, which is a Village and Savings Committee. So David told me, David is the driver, he said, Madam Akosua, I'm coming to collect you at 6 a.m. and we are going to the village. So I'm ready at 6, David comes, and I'm dressed in my accountant outfit, you know, all Western, with my suit and my projector and laptop and tablet and everything. Put it in the car. David is watching me like I'm crazy. So we get into the car and we're driving. I said, David, how far is this place? It's not very far, madam. 3 hours passed. David, we're not very far, madam. 4 hours. David, it's not very far, madam. 6 hours and 13 minutes later. I'm hot, I'm dusty, I'm sweating. I get out of the car, the women are there waiting for me, and everything is a celebration. Dancing. So when that was finished, I'm taking the stuff out of the car. The laptop and it. What is that? I said, well, this is to do the training. but we have no power here. I said, what? When is it coming back? Coming back? We have no power here, madam. So there goes my bright idea of showing PowerPoint. Right? So I said, so what am I supposed to do? He said, well, you have to get creative, madam. So I never use PowerPoints anymore. Anyway, I come out of that situation and they asked me to come and meet the president of the VNS. And she said, madam, who are you? I said, I am Akosua, I'm an accountant. I studied in London. Madam, who are you? I said it again. Madam, who are you? So now I'm thinking it's my accent. She said, do you know who I am? I said, yes, you are the president of the VNS. No, that is what I do. You people have this thing where you come and say you have all these qualifications and where you're from. That is not you. Sit over there, and when you know who you are, you come back and you tell us. We only start when you know who you are. She put me in a naughty corner. So I'm in the naughty corner, and I'm writing, my name is Akosua, I am an accountant. My name is Akosua, I live at... And I sat there and I started to cry because this was the time when everything from Trinidad that happened just came upon me, and I was, you know, the nasty cry. Oh God, oh God, snot and they just waited on me. So after an hour and a half in the naughty corner, she came back. Madam Akosua, who are you? And in that moment, I decided that something had to change. I decided that I had to be more than what I studied and what I owned. And I said to her, I am Akosua. Some call me Yaki. I am divine, courageous, patient, and compassionate. I am a child of the source of all things, overflowing and abundant with every single thing that I have while I'm here in this form. I am love, and I'm here in service. And she gave me a big hug, and she said, Madam Akosua, all those fancy titles and things you own says something about you, but they could never ever be who you are. And once you know who you are, you will always, always be fine. So, the fourth thing is know who you are without the things. So you don't have to go into a naughty corner and boo-hoo down the place to answer. Who are you? And from that day in Uganda, I decided that I was love and I was here in service. So every time I showed up, I had to show up as me, who I was, which was love and in service. So we set about to build this #1 agricultural seed company in East Africa. That was the vision, very clear. And as I said, women out there were not allowed to own anything. And I decided I'll call a meeting. You know, that's what we do here, right? We call a meeting. So I called a meeting. I said, okay, what do we have? Where's a business plan? Where's a marketing plan? 27 years of civil war. If anybody's 25, they never went to school, right? So they're looking at me, huh? Madam Akosua, we have land and we have us. Let us start with what we have. Number 5, start with what you have. So we started with what we had. We started planting the land and going to the market and selling to earn money. And we started building. We reached a point where we had to expand. And we decided to go to the bank to get a loan. So we went to 46 banks. And each bank said no. 46. So by bank 5, after I heard 5 no's, what is going on? Let us just stop this. No, Madam Akosua, we are not done. We stop when we get the money. Persistence means doing it until it is done. So bank number 13, I'm pulling out my hair. Like, what is going on? And Josephine, who is the woman I met in Ottawa, she said, Madam Akosua, we are not done yet. And then she would get frustrated and she would disappear into the bush. And then a few days later, she would come back. Madam Akosua, let's go. What is in that bush? And that would happen. So one day I said, what's going on in that bush? Because every time she comes back, let's go. She said, Madam Akosua, do you have a bush? Like, you need to find your bush. Like, what? Go somewhere where you get still and regroup and think without all the distractions. Find your bush. Number 6, find your bush. So one weekend, she went into the bush and she came back. Madam Akosua, where is Norway? Like, what is in your bush? Norway, like the country? Yes, where is Norway? Where? We are going to get our money in Norway. I want to go in that bush. Tap internet in the bush. What? She said, I know that the people in Norway have a conscience and we will get our money in Norway. Okay, fast forward. We got our money in Norway, 1.5 million US dollars. Half of it was in equity. Anybody know what equity is? Equity. You know what equity is? You know what debt is? Debt? Okay. So equity is when someone invests in your company and they own part of it, like shares. So we sold part of the company and these 3 Norwegians became shareholders. So I learned about that out in the bush, even though I studied that in university, right? So we got a 1.5 million US in equity and debt from those people in Norway. And they said to me, Madam Akosua, we do it until it is done. We're done now. So, number 7, persistence means doing it until it is done. So we got the money, we invested it, we got a state-of-the-art facility built, and we wanted to move into retail because we were growing crops, we were wholesaling the seeds, and our next step was retail. So my task was to find a retail spot in town where we would sell our seeds to farmers and to people who want to grow food. So a girl went into town scouting for a place, and I found the perfect spot. It was close to the boda bodas. Boda bodas is motorbikes that they use as taxis. Close to the bus station. It was on the first floor, and I went back into the compound and I said, ladies, we found a place. And they're like, yeah, Madam Akosua. Because they already think I'm so not smart from all those other escapades with the PowerPoint and everything. Like, yeah, Madam Akosua, yeah. Where is this place? I said, oh, it's in town. And I told them where. And they said, yes. And Josephine was in the bush at that time, right? So I went back to the place and I paid 1 million shillings. That was before we got the 1.5 million, right? So that was from our savings. 1 million shillings. That's maybe like 600 US or so. But that's a lot of money, right? Paid it, and we went back to the compound and we celebrated. Yay, you know, we're gonna move into retail and da-da-da-da-da. So now it's time to move. And I go back to the shop and somebody's in the shop. Like a shop is in the shop. So I'm panicking now. I say, look, is there an internet cafe around here? I can book a ticket back to Trinidad. You know, like, oh, 1 million shillings. Can't find the guy. I paid the money to his phone is not working. The people in the shop said, this is our shop. You know, we're here, we're not leaving the shop. So I go back to the compound and I said, ladies, I told them what happened. Like, oh, when Josephine comes, it's fireworks. She went in the bush. So I'm frightened. I said, oh, maybe I should just leave, go back to Trinidad. Nobody wouldn't know. It's 2 days away, flying. Anyway, so Josephine came back from the bush. And I gave her this story, and she was silent for like 30 seconds. You know, that kind of silence where like, and she said, Madam Akosua, so if we lose this money and not have this place, would it stop us from being the #1 company in East Africa? No. Okay. Well, you will work and pay back that money. Let's go. So lesson number 8. If you know what your vision is and your vision is clear, the mistakes along the way will not derail you as much, because you ask yourself, would this setback stop me from achieving my vision? So we got another shop, and I didn't go to pay for it. It wasn't me. I got fired from that role. But we got another shop. In fact, we ended up having 7 shops, and we did become the #1 company in Uganda. And within 5 years, we were the #1 agricultural seed company in the country. And we decided, since we're #1 here, we need to move into the other parts of East Africa, which is Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan, and Burundi. That was the plan. But I came back home. Why? I went into South Sudan. Anybody know where South Sudan is? Heard of it? Yes? You're leaving me alone out here. South Sudan was 40 years of civil war, 40 years. And we decided we wanted to use the same model where we would use women to start the business. So I went. Again, I didn't have on a suit. I didn't ask any questions about how far it was. I knew who I was. And I'm meeting with the woman, and they asked me, Madam Akosua, tell us about this country, Trinidad and Tobago. So I said, well, it's in the Caribbean, and it's close to Jamaica. We do not know this place. I said, okay, what about close to Venezuela? We do not know this place either. I said, okay, you know USA? Yes, Obama. You are from USA. I said, no, I am explaining to them where I'm from. Okay, okay, Madam Akosua, Trinidad and Tobago. How did you navigate the war in Trinidad and Tobago to come here? What war? The war in your country. How did you escape? Well, we don't have a war. I've never lived in a war. You've never lived in a war. Madam Akosua, you've never lived in a war. No, I've never lived in a war. Never, ever. No. Okay. So, how many goats did your father sell for you to go to school then? Or cows? I never had a goat or a cow. School is free. School is free? From what age? Since I knew myself. School is free in Trinidad and Tobago. Go home. Why? Madam Akosua, what did you do with your education? Did you go back to the village and help anyone? Feeling embarrassed now. No, I did not go back to the village to help anyone. You need to go home. And they asked me again, how did my family get to Trinidad and Tobago? And I explained to them about the Middle Passage and the indentured laborers. And they said to me, Madam Akosua, you come from a country that never had a war, that education is free, that your family sacrificed no goats and no cows. You need to go home and build your country and ensure that it never have a war. And all the education that you have, you need to go back and rebuild your village. And I couldn't stop thinking about that because I ran from here. And Trinidad and Tobago is what made me who I am today. So I came back home. And I'm glad to be here because I can speak to you. So I want to say to you as I wrap up, education is important. Education is not just the degrees. It goes beyond that. It goes towards giving back to your country. It goes towards knowing who you are. And it goes towards having a clear vision for yourself. And that can change as you go. Because remember, I was thinking about being an accountant. And here I am. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I wish you all success in your journey and to find your bush.